Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners,
The not in season Mariners.
the off-season Mariners,
Yeah,
the 40%, 40 whole percent of the AL West is still playing in the playoffs.
it's
Not,
true.
not the Mariners; they didn't even make it.
Hey, as long as Houston doesn't win, that's all I'm hoping for.
Let's just that's not very fun to talk about. Why don't we talk about something that's equally not as fun to talk about as a Seahawks loss? But before we jump into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that watched every down from the play, inside and out, and is ready to come and bring and drop some knowledge. Maybe you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on Twitter at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red. You can also find me on TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, hop on over to YouTube, search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that is a college student that the assignments due the next day and he didn't read the book, so he just looked at the clip notes and maybe watched a little video about the game. Maybe you're looking for a guy like Cain.
Sorry, I had to take my family to a pumpkin patch, so I'm sorry,
That
everybody.
sounds like
Yeah, but
that
I'm
sounds like
Kane.
basic bitch falls shit.
It was. But I'm Kane. You can find me on Twitter at Kane2406, on YouTube at Kane06, TikTok and Kick at Kane0624. Also, follow the show's Instagram and TikTok at
Twitter,
Coach Red Pod,
Twitter,
Twitter and TikTok, basically everything. Um, follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
man.
It'll get better. All right.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, you can find Cain with a pumpkin spice latte. Basic,
False. False.
basic.
I have a 2.5-year-old that likes to run around and see things at a pumpkin patch. So
And you get to like to get a little pea spice.
don't
Makes it
act like
twice
you
as nice
never
while you're there.
taken your daughter anywhere during a game.
Record the game, watch it later.
Well,
All right. Before we dive into pumpkin patches and sons and daughters, why don't we talk about what you came here to listen to, which is recap on the Seahawks. Seahawks are in Cincinnati, coming off the bye, getting a little bit healthier. Charles Cross is back. Jamal Adams is back. You expect some things to pop. What was not awesome is very early on in the game, Julian Love on kickoff gets dinged up, comes back in the game. But I'm like, just when we have this secondary in full effect, of
right.
course, of course.
Every single time.
Um, Seahawks lose 17-13, and you wouldn't have guessed from watching early game in here. Both the Bengals and the Seahawks go down, score early, make it look easy, looking like this is going to be a shootout. But this was just a weird and wacky week in the world of the NFL.
Sure
You had a
was.
lot of teams that were anticipated to win handily that go down with the loss, no more undefeated teams. And it was just topsy turvy the whole time. And with Seahawks, you saw the defense really take a step forward. You're facing a team, granted, the Bengals haven't run the ball very well, but the Seahawks have stopped the run pretty well. But the Seahawks have given up some yards in the passing game, but they hold the Bengals to about 240 yards of offense. Jamar Chase doesn't eat you alive. He gets locked down a little bit by a slew of different uh, defensive backs. T. Higgins, a little bit here and there.
I mean,
It
Tyler Boyd got the touchdown.
Tyler Boyd got a touchdown early, but the Seahawks defense actually played pretty well. It was the offense that kind of struggled, and you saw it boil over in a few things. Geno Smith holding on to the ball a little bit too long. You had the offensive line that's been playing with backups, which still playing with backups. You had uh, Bradford and Curran still starting on the line when you had Damian Lewis and Abe Lucas still out. So it was a DK Metcalf getting a little hot, getting another unsportsmanlike. Gino trying to press a little bit, and the struggles really came in the red zone. And
Yeah.
the Seahawks walked away from points a couple of times, or had some costly turnovers in the red zone that could turn the tides of this game a little bit.
They lost out on 2, 4, and extended. You have to go for it in this situation. At the end there, where he got sacked, the offensive line gave up what 4
Yeah, and
on
in
the
that last play, Bradford and Curran get crossed up, and Gino didn't have any time to even do
no.
anything.
It seems like once they stepped foot in the 20-yard mark to the end zone, that's kind of where things were falling apart. Um, you had Tyler Lockett being what Jermaine Kearse used to be back in the day, just big moment, big moment. Caught
No,
that ball
Jermaine
down the
Curse was
middle.
one big moment a game. Tyler Lockett's
Yeah,
good for more than one. Don't
yeah, I know
besmirch
that.
Tyler Lockett like that. Granted, I love Jermaine Curse, but dude, don't do that to him.
He had that big catch right down there, like
Dude,
what, minute 10 left?
if you're trying to make a Jermaine Curse comp, is Jake Bobo, dude.
Yeah.
Bobo Bobo makes a phenomenal leaping grab and gets absolutely blasted in the head, just pops up like it's nothing. And he graded
Yeah.
out pretty well. Looks good in the run game. Fierce, tenacious blocker. I think he caught 2 passes on the day too. So really
2 or
seeing good
3.
things out of UDFA, Jake Bobo.
Yeah, I'm really liking him week in, week out. He's big too. Like, I didn't realize how tall he was, but he kind of towers over dudes.
Yeah. He's not the fleetest of foot by his 40 time, but the dude's football fast.
Yeah. There's a couple things that I like to see. Kenneth Walker had some big runs in there.
He had a touchdown. He looked untouchable in the first 2 drives, but after that, they kind of bottled him up. You saw Charbonnet get a little bit of run going in there. The tight ends doing their thing. Will Dis, Snowfant, Cole Parkinson, all getting in there in the receiving game. But I think the one thing that you're kind of seeing, especially coming off the bye, you expected them to be healthier, which they were. Um, but this point's been made a little bit by analysts, ESPN, Brady Henderson's putting out there. You can only play with a bunch of backups on your offensive line for so long before it finally starts to hurt you. And it did. Gino
Yeah.
was off time, pressured quite a bit, especially in the second half. When he had time, he looked good. But the issue is Geno Smith's trying to force the ball to JSN a little bit to get him going. Granted, JSN, biggest game of his career, clocks in around 40 to 60 yards, handful of catches. But Geno's first interception was one that
Yeah.
was a forced ball to JSN. And then his second interception was DK Metcalf got hit in the ribs type area, uh, kind of made an in route, kind of settled on it, and Gino thought he was going to keep going. And Cam Taylor Britt for the Bengals just makes a phenomenal layout interception. But that's really killed you is P. Carroll is
Yep.
protect the damn ball. And when you lose the turnover battle, it's typically not good for the Seahawks, especially when you're on the road in a hostile environment, a team that has got a little bit of its swagger back because they're finally playing better ball after that Arizona game. And Joe Burrow's healthier. You had Jamar Chase coming off almost a career game. And you hold the offense pretty much in check. And what you worried about with the Seahawks team is their defense. But the offense, this was definitely a game that was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah. One thing I do want to cap from what I saw was that the defensive line, dude, those boys are gritty.
Dude, Boye Mafe had a sack where he was just like beeline straight to Burrow. Burrow didn't have time. He went unblocked.
Yeah.
Like Boye Mafe is
Underrated.
pretty studly. Spoon making some plays out there. Reek making some plays. Trey Brown back in the lineup. Jamal laying some hat
Yeah. Trey
in this
Bound,
game.
big interception too.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a game that you wanted the Seahawks to win. Granted, I think in our preseason thing, we had the Seahawks finishing at 11 wins, and I believe through the first five, I think we had them at 3-2. So, especially, I think this Bengal game is one we expected them to lose. But with the way the Bengals had started off this year, especially with the injury to Joe Burr, then you expected the Seahawks, who played very poorly in their first game, played a good Detroit team, and then did what they needed to do to win against two teams that are not playing very well at all right now. You expected them to come out hot, especially off the bye, but it just didn't happen. And
Yeah.
it didn't happen for a lot of teams this week. I think
49ers
the
go
49ers
down.
came out and someone said we didn't deserve to win this game. Yep, the Browns starting third string quarterback PJ Walker, they deserved to win that game. Get out of here. I
Yeah.
understand that CMC and Debo goes down and it was raining pretty good there, but for a team that is vastly more talented than the Browns, you expect that to be a win. You've got
Philly losing to the Jets.
Philly losing to the Jets that did not have DJ Reed. I think Sauce Gardner was playing with an illness, so he wasn't even at 100%. And that game didn't look great either for the Eagles. So you just had these teams that went out and laid eggs. I believe that there was only two teams that scored over 20 points before the Monday night game,
Yes.
and that
Yeah.
was the Dolphins and I don't even remember, like the Vikings.
Think so. I
Yeah,
think
two
so.
teams scored over 20. Like, it's not good. Well, no,
No.
actually, I take that back. The Raiders scored over 20 late on a safety. But
Yeah,
weird week of football.
it was.
But luckily, the Seahawks have the struggling Cardinals coming up very soon, which Cardinals have not been playing well ever since their win over the Cowboys. The rest of the games they play have not looked overly competitive. But before we jump in to a little preview, Kane, give me your least valuable player from last weekend's game.
I mean, Gino Gino Smith for me, he, as you said, forced the ball a lot in situations where didn't need to be forced. And just a lot of inaccurate passes too. So he hurt us the most this week, I feel like. It is what it is. So, Coach Red, who is your least favorite player?
Great in-depth breakdown there.
Thanks.
LVP for this game for me is the right side of the line. I'm going to throw Bradford and Jake Curran in on one foul swoop. It's tough to get imbalance in rhythm when you're getting inconsistent play. And this was kind of the first game where they really got exposed, besides the opener when, Curran got thrust into duties at halftime. And
Mm.
they've been playing relatively well with these mashup lines, guys coming in, guys coming out. But this was definitely the game where it bit him in the keister when you've got, Trey Hendrickson and you throw in Sam Hubbard along this line, good linebacker play. Uh, it was just a tough one. And, Charles Cross coming back looked okay, but coming back from an injury, so
Yeah.
it's tough. But I would say, especially that last play when you're in a position to win and your quarterback gets under 2 seconds between snap and when he needs to get rid of the ball, when you're 8 yards out and the play's developing, you got to get a little bit more time. And ultimately, I feel like that's what sunk the Seahawks. Kane, who was your MVP of the game?
MVP is Kenneth Walker because the dude produced. I mean, you know, hold on. Let me get my Statosaurus Rex glasses on. 1 second.
62 yards rushing, 3.3 average, and he had three
A
catches for
touchdown
27 yards. So a total of 89 yards.
and a touchdown. 80. the dude runs hard. Like there were so many plays where he had to maneuver through the offensive line to get 5-6 yards. He kind of runs like Marshawn used to. So that's what I like to see. Coach Red, who was your MVP?
My MVP is the Legion of Zoom. This is a high powered passing attack when they're right, and they looked right the week before. And they really came out and really put a damper on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, who are your premier guys on this team. Um, Spoon looked good. Jamal Adams, Lane Hat, like I said, all these guys contributed, and this is what needs to happen going forward. You need this defense to step up. The offense has too many players and too many key players that can impact a game for this to go as stagnant as it did for an entire half. I'm anticipating that works itself out. But the defense is something that we said for the Seahawks to have the season like we expect them to have. They need to be a top half of the league defense. And the run game, stopping the run had been huge for them, and they really ratcheted it up in that regard. But they haven't faced a ton of guys that are prolific in the first couple of games. And they got to some early leads where, guess what? People are going to start passing the ball, especially in that Carolina game. But to see the improved run stopping with Jaron Reed, who's playing like a boss, Draymond Jones, Boye Mafe, Chenin Nwosu, and the linebacker play playing better than we anticipated as well, with Bobby Wagner playing damn near every snap still out there.
Yeah.
But the last key piece was really meshing that with a secondary that performed pretty well last year. And we're starting to see glimpses of it. And I love to see that against a team with as much talent that the Bengals have on offense.
Yeah.
So, next game at home on Sunday versus the Cardinals of Arizona. How's that game look for you when you're looking ahead?
The Cardinals are a weird team this year. And, you know, there are reports that Kyler Murray could be practicing this week.
Okay.
So I don't know, but
Kyler Murray wouldn't play this week if he's just
but Josh Dobbs has been serviceable, and there's had some weird performances. So I would be shocked if their offense lights us up, especially since they don't have James Conner either. So rushing attack is going to be a little weaker. And the only person I feel it can really hurt us on offense would be Marquise Brown. I don't really see that happening. So I see the Seahawks defense shutting them down and the Seahawks offense going off.
I think the thing you have to worry about for the Cardinals is Zach Ertz out of the tight end spot, realistically. Because tight ends typically, Sam Laporta this year already. We kind of locked down Waller, but Danny Nichols couldn't do much.
No.
The tight end room in Cincinnati has just been abysmal for years. So it's like when you look at these teams that they face, there hasn't been really a high caliber tight end except for Waller. But with the line play that the Giants had that day, Daniel Jones wasn't getting much time to look at anything. I'm probably looking at more so of Ertz kind of hitting you in the middle of the field, because that middle to deep intermediate throw, not deep, but like at length intermediate throws are typically where those holes open up in the Seahawks defense. Luckily, Ertz isn't a big yak guy, so I think that the Seahawks will win pretty well. But I mean, name me, because Buda Baker, if I'm not mistaken, is
Is
on the IR
injured.
right now. So
Yep.
name me like 3 players on their defense. It's tough to do.
It is. Because
Extremely tough to do.
they traded Isaiah Simmons earlier this year too. And that was your other notable guy.
Sure.
Ugh. Ouchie.
Yeah, it's gonna. I think that the Seahawks, especially coming home, have the opportunity to start getting Lumen Field back to what it was in the heyday. Start winning your home games and winning them consistently. You had a stinker against the Rams. You played pretty well against the Carolina Panthers, except you played a little bit to their level, which they'll tend to do. So I think this game will be closer than I would like it to be. But with Seahawks, they're definitely you have a first year coach in Gannon down there. You've got Josh Dobbs, who's a career backup quarterback. Your starting running backs out. Your top wide receiver is Hollywood Brown. Okay, cool. And the leader of your defense isn't on the field. I don't
Yep.
think if this turns into like their upset of the Cowboys, um, we might have a hate episode coming up on the Seahawks. But it's just very hard to envision that happening, especially with James Conner being out because he was healthy
Yeah.
for the Cowboys game.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Jeez, man, I'm in a few words today. But if
Yeah.
you want to see what some of those few words are, you can follow us on social media. You can find me, your boy Coach Red, on Twitter at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red. Also find me over on TikTok at the real Coach Red. And find us on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. Cain, where you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Cain2406, on YouTube at Cain06, TikTok and Kick at Cain0624. Also follow the shows at Twitter and Insta at Real Coach Red Pod.
At Coach Red
False
Pod.
at Coach Red Pod. False. Do it, freaking do it.
You can find the show over on Twitter or Insta at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, frickin' do it. See, it's not that hard. It's not that hard, man. Just gotta figure it out.
I know that.
Hey, as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.